And welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of the podcast that we have going on here. I am your host, Joker.
I'm your co-host, Shephard.
How have you been, my man? All good? Keeping well?
I am very well, my good man, Joker. It is a spectacular day. It's Tuesday. It's not Monday. That's the way to be. No Mondays. Mondays
Love
can
it.
die.
Love it. And we actually have a pretty good entry for the next edition of the podcast that we have going on here. So we've been kind of like swapping ideas about the place, and we came up with this title of it. It's like much like with the first podcast episode that we did. It's like our 6 kind of things that ticked us off in the gaming industry. This one here is again a little bit more malleable. There's no script to this at all. It's quite free flowing. It's very, very much a conversational kind of piece, but we're going to kind of follow the same format of our 6 whatevers. But this one is actually like 6 moments in gaming that kind of, I suppose, stunned us into silence. And it not necessarily that it has to be like I was that frightened that it stunned me or things like this. It can actually be quite a positive thing. But they're just moments that kind of like we've all had them when we're playing video games. There's always that one title that kind of like it's kind of a strange comparison I'm going to make here, but when I hear a piece of music for the first time or from a band or an artist, and if I really vibe to it, I go into this kind of trancey kind of state. Has that ever happened to you? Like you just kind of you don't even know what you're listening to. It's like whoa.
Yeah, sometimes I'm kind of I'm like on the bus or something like that, and then say I'm on a playlist or something I've never listened to before, and then a song will come on. And it may even be like a song from a game I've played, but maybe in the game it didn't affect me right away, but hearing it kind of isolated for the first time, kind of you're dazed and you're in a trance, and it kind of takes you away. It's like, not to sound pretentious here, but it's a bit like an out of body experience.
You're right.
It's kind of something you're not really accustomed to, because it doesn't happen every single time you do it.
Yes, exactly.
Like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. And I really hand on my heart really do believe that there are moments in gaming that can do that to the players. So we've each kind of like listed off 6 kind of bullet points of our own personal moments, and kind of going back to the format of how it is. This isn't to say like, oh, number 1 is the best one, number 6 is this one, number 4 is this one. It's very much going to be a free-flowing form of conversation. So I'm just going to hit it right out of the park here. My first moment... Of course.
I should clarify. Spoilers. This
spoilers, absolutely.
Spoilers. We'll obviously say the game in advance of what we actually say, but if you're listening and you hear something, you're like, get out here. If you don't, like, spoil it for you, because we're going to spoil stuff rotten, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. Like we will mention the title before we actually talk about it. So if I say, so this moment comes from this, and if anybody out there listening hasn't played that game, skip it for a good 2 minutes. I'd say 2-3 minutes.
Go play the game and come back.
Absolutely, and who knows, you might even agree with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But that is a good shout. That is a good shout. There will be spoilers here. This is your warning. So the first one right out of the bat for me, I think it's kind of going on the whole music side of things as well. This really played a big part in this moment. My first point is actually from Skyrim, and I believe you just kind of like had your walkthrough with it recently, so you're probably going to know exactly what I'm going to talk about. Like, that game is 11 years old and it still holds up insanely well. Like, no other gaming company aside from Bethesda can do the open world landscape as fluidly as these guys. Now, granted, they are running a lot of their titles on quite primitive engines, but the modding company around Bethesda is so dedicated. Like there's actually, just before I get into the point, there was a group of gamers who got together and are doing it's a collaboration between a bunch of modders who are modding Skyrim and Oblivion together. So they're actually...
I've seen this. Yeah, they're taking the Skyrim engine, isn't it? The updated version of the engine or something like that, and just transposing Skyrim into it.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
So they're rebuilding Oblivion from the ground up with Skyrim's animations, the environments, and all this kind of thing. Like, and it's actually going to be a fully released title. I think it's coming out in 2025 or something like that. So it just shows the dedication that these people have for even just a gaming company, let alone these titles. But the particular part that I'm talking about is it's something so small. but because you're going across these vast open areas, like for example, going from Helgen to Whiterun, or from Whiterun to many other different places on the map. This blew my mind the first time I encountered this thing. But it's a piece of music called Secunda, by the composer's name is Jeremy Soule, and unfortunately we actually can't link it in here at the moment, but you can YouTube it and listen to it. It's one of the most prettiest pieces of music I think I've ever heard. But it's that moment. It happens at night time only, when you look up and you can see the Northern Lights almost painted across this vast canvas of sky. It's absolute. When I saw it for the first time, I was like, "Oh shit! Like, that is really pretty." But I think it was like the timing couldn't have been perfect, because you could hear the wind gently gustling by, and hearing like crickets chirping away in the background, and the sound of a village over the horizon. But like seeing the night sky and then the Northern Lights painted across this open canvas with that piece of music, it stunned me. I was just like, it actually felt like I was in a real moving, living environment. And it was brilliant. Like, it really was.
I believe that was actually the intention, for obvious reasons. But I remember hearing something about this somewhere, that Skyrim was developed with the mindset that every frame of the game was like that. I think it was something, I can't remember, they had a term for it.
Yeah.
It was essentially this idea that no matter where you were in the open world, you were experiencing some sort of gorgeous vista, or just generally being captivated by the visuals. Now, the graphics themselves are dog shit, but it's the style that holds up still. Like, with the Northern Lights style of the sky at night, like what you're describing there,
or the Dwemer runes underneath.
Exactly, or like the way the wind kind of sweeps across snowy plains and stuff like that. As you said, it feels fluid. It feels like the world is actually like alive.
Yeah,
which I completely agree with. I know obviously Bethesda games have issues. All of the voice actors, they have like 10 voice actors, and of course Bethesda's bugs are a thing.
Yeah,
the animations are mediocre at best, but it is. I think it's a situation where the whole is better than the sum of its parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But it was just that moment. I can't even. I'm almost certain it was on the way to Whiterun, and because I had done a lot of kind of mini explorations of the grander open areas. Like, as you said, you can, like, if you look up to the side of a mountain face, you can see ruins there that you can go to. You can go and fully explore that. Now, as you said, like, a lot of Skyrim can be very copy and pasted. Like, you can find a lot of places that are quite similar aesthetically inside.
That's the nature of an open world game, though, to be fair. You can't expect them to truly kind of polish and to a mirror sheen the entire world. Because that's just absurd. I know we have certain expectations of open world games, but I think it's important to kind of temper them sometimes, because there's only so much a company made of people can do. Their ambition often outweighs their abilities or their resources.
Yeah. But that was one moment. It was something so very small, but it was just like, this. Now the game has me. That's and it's good. Just that piece Secunda by Jeremy Soule. I mean, it's I listen to it nowadays, and it reminds me of that time when I came across it for the first time in Skyrim, and it'll always have a little special place in my heart as a gamer. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to you, my friend, and what have you got?
I want to say before I start that I totally relate to your point. It's still something, again, I experience when I play the game. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Sorry. So my first point, this is going to be, I'm going to right away, I'm telling you now, this is Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
And that is the only Zelda I'll be talking about in this video. Because the last podcast, there was a lot of Zelda on my end.
No, it's nice to hear that you're such a dedicated fan to a franchise. I'm sure there was people listening as well that were like, yeah, Shephard is actually pretty spot on here with his points. And
yeah, to be fair, Zelda's a big franchise. Lots of people like Zelda, but it's more, I got a bit repetitive, and I'd rather, okay, this is my Zelda point, and then it's done for the rest of the podcast.
Fair.
So, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and this is a very simple one, and it is the first time I witnessed Ocarina of Time's title screen.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was It wasn't the first 3D game I played. I think I mentioned that on the last podcast. It wasn't the first game I played, but it was the first time I put a game on, and then the atmosphere was just set right away. So I don't know if you've seen it yourself.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So you know yourself. It starts off fairly low key.
Yeah.
You just hear kind of like
builds up slowly.
Like you hear the clip clop of the horse Epona, her hooves as she kind of rides across the plains. The music slowly kind of strings its way in. It wasn't even an orchestra at the time. They didn't have the money for that.
It was on MIDI files, wasn't it? What they did was they put in just to cut across you. It's music, so I'm naturally going to be very dorky about this. I believe what they did was they used a series of very, very old Yamaha keyboards, but they emulated some of the sounds, like so the string sounds. And this isn't like new technology. People do this all the time.
This was 1997.
This is it, it's amazing that they used such, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, they used such primitive resources when it came to a game that really is an entire game based around music, without actually using proper big brassy sounds or anything like that. Like obviously with the ocarina, they recorded the ocarina with the bongos the stuff that I'm talking about there. I think it's from Majora's Mask.
But Majora's Mask was built on the same engine as Ocarina. It reused a lot of assets and even music and stuff like that. So I would imagine
it sounded so organic, though. Organic.
It worked so well. Like the Ocarina of Time's music, as I said, it kind of plays in slowly, where you kind of just hear like a string sound, like and then the logo fades in as Link kind of climbs the hill. It sets the tone right away.
It's amazing
for this adventure you're going to go on. And I love it. And that's the whole point. I just think it's a great title screen.
Fair.
Now, before we move to your point, I'd like to point out there are other title screens that have me like this.
That's actually a good one for another podcast episode, like just title screens.
Best title screens or best intro videos. Like Metal Gear Solid 2, if you leave on title screen, then the Sons of Liberty theme comes on, and it's gorgeous and it's
brilliant,
fantastic. Same with Snake Eater. Tales of Symphonia, like that kind of stuff. I love just letting those things play out. The Budokai games, I love their intros. They went hard. That kind of stuff. I don't know. It's just something I think is kind of not as prevalent nowadays in games. You'll still get cool title screens in and of themselves, but maybe not big bombastic intro videos before you even press start.
It was a different time then, though. Like it really was. It was a different era. It was a different era, different time.
It was almost like a trailer would play before the game.
Yeah, like an epilogue or a prologue. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a good trailer. That shit gets me rock hard. I mean, it gets me very excited. What? That's a different podcast.
That's the After Hours podcast that we do.
That's the X-rated.
That's the premium. The premium stuff you have to pay for.
Yeah, that's the slave point.
The slave point. Oh man, that's going to happen.
We'll never monetize this podcast.
Absolutely not. I love it.
Yeah, sorry. So the next point.
No, that is a good point though. Like it's a good entry that you had there. The just that title screen, because it's kind of like spoon feeding you as to what to expect for the main course. And like I mentioned this a few times. I'd never played a Zelda game before. I just didn't have the console for it. And I know it's been ported out to other handheld consoles from Nintendo and things like this. I just never got around to it, to be honest with you. I was much more of a Final Fantasy kind of guy, which kind of leads me onto the second point I wanted to make. It actually is from a Final Fantasy game. It's actually my favorite Final Fantasy, which is Final Fantasy X. A controversial title for. I understand the reasons why. The voice acting can come across as rather stilted. There's some, the Titus and the laughing scene, like, is probably one of the most memed cutscenes probably of all time. But this was a kind of a tough one to kind of find. But I knew I was going to add Final Fantasy X from there just because of how much it resonated with me when I was playing it, and even nowadays it still does. But the game is full of these moments, and it was really difficult to kind of pick one out of a game that is just, there's so many memorable scenes. But I think for me, probably the most memorable scene that kind of, for me, that kind of stunned me into silence with just how organically written it was, is the scene in Macalania Woods when you've, after escaping Bavel, having learned that all the maesters of Yevon, the preachers of this world religion, are all undead, and that the cycle of sin it'll never stop being reborn. It's just one of these. It's this entity that is constantly being reborn every 10 years. Even if a summoner defeats it, it will always come back. And the teachers and priests of Yevon have been using this to indoctrinate their followers, to keep them in this constant state of fear. So they will always keep Yevon in power. There's a lot of heavy themes in that game, as a matter of fact, and I'm not going to go too much into them because the podcast will go on for ages just based on this one point. But it's a moment when Yuna, the protagonist of the game, essentially, apart from Tidus, she's having this kind of crisis of faith where she realizes now that Yevon has betrayed her. Her father, who was a summoner before her, did he die for a dead religion? Like, there's so many points there, but the moment I was going to talk about was when Tidus and Yuna are in Macalania Woods, and Tidus kind of, he says now that they're all together, they can just go back to Zanarkand, which is where Tidus is from. Yuna knows that can't happen because it was destroyed. And she starts questioning, is she going to give up her pilgrimage? And as Tidus is saying, oh, let's go back to my home and I'll show you the Docklands, and we can go there just right as the sun is rising, and it gets brighter and brighter until the sea around us is almost like it's rose-coloured, and the city is just waking up, and it's a city that never sleeps, and I really want to show you where I'm from. And Yuna starts crying because she knows that she can't do that. And she knows that deep down she's going to have to go on with her pilgrimage to defeat sin. And it's a moment when Tidus puts his hands on her shoulders. They're kind of waist high in this water, and it's a very beautiful scene. Like, there's moonlight through the leaves of the trees. There's like, it almost looks like the water has crystals on the surface of it. And he embraces her, and they share a passionate moment together. And like, the amount of other things that have happened hours beforehand has been kind of leading up into this, like what you said about the whole Zelda title thing. It starts off so small, and then it ends in this massive crescendo of sound, with them, like, this is their crescendo of, like, they're just letting their feelings come to life.
It's in FMV as well, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah,
it's not in engine. It's a beautiful. I remember it well myself.
Yeah,
it's stunning.
It really is, and it's. I remember when I saw it, like, when I first played, I would think I was about 10 or 11 years old, I think I was, and it hit me that badly, and it's only a short cutscene. It's like 4 or 5 minutes where they're kind of holding each other under the water, and they're like swimming together, and it was just so beautiful. And that was one of those moments that really just stunned me. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air because of all the hard battles that you had fought only an hour or so beforehand. This was kind of like, you as the player as well were having this huge kind of like, just this, we're finally okay now. And now Tidus and Yuna together are finally okay. So that was just one of the points that I made that I knew I was going to put down. It was actually one of the first ones. So yeah, just Tidus and Yuna in the lake in Macalania.
Great scene.
That wonderful scene. The music that plays in the background is like a full orchestral piece of the themes, the main theme of the game, which is Sutake Dina. It plays in some of the villages you visit and things like this. So to hear it as a huge orchestral piece and seeing their two souls interwoven together, it was just beautiful. It really was.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I loved about that game myself, was that they were obviously building up Tidus and Yuna's relationship and stuff like that already through the game, and just giving them that moment together, like giving them that quiet, peaceful moment away from everything else.
Absolutely.
Just to let them be together.
Yeah, because Yuna and Tidus know that the end result is that when Yuna summons the final Aeon, she's going to die.
Yeah.
And it was almost like they said, no, everybody else doesn't matter. Sin doesn't matter right now. The final summoning doesn't matter right now. What matters most is, like, we're going to allow these two characters just join as one and just give them that night together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it really was like even looking on it now in this day and age, as you said, the FMV is just, it's spotless. It really is, and it kind of rejuvenates you to continue on your quest. So I had to include it. I really did. I had to put that in there.
Understandable. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'd be offended if you didn't include it.
I had a feeling that you knew I was going to include a Final Fantasy title.
Not surprised, you know.
What you got for me?
So this one is kind of a bit more depressing. I
love it.
So I think once I start talking, you're going to know immediately what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Mass Effect 3.
Which part?
Leaving Earth.
Oh, okay. Leaving Earth. Okay.
Leaving Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
For those who don't know, and for those who do know, you're going to listen anyway because you signed up to it. You press play. That's on you. Early on in the game, very early on, the Reapers attack Earth. They do their business, start wrecking ship. You, as Commander Shephard, you're on the run as you manage to escape the destruction of the city that you're in. I think it's in London.
Yeah, it's where the I believe it's where the Human Alliance's main kind of headquarters is when they're not in the Citadel. And Captain Anderson is there as well.
Yeah, he's fighting alongside you for a bit. And it's there's lots of explosions and alien shit and all that kind of, and that's fine. But it's when Shephard gets on the Normandy.
It's a shuttle car that he's on first, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's on a shuttle car as it flies off to the Normandy.
That's right.
And Captain Anderson says, "I'm going to stay behind and do what I can here." All that stuff. And as you pull away, the music, the game itself goes silent, and the slow music by, I think it's Clint Mansell.
Yeah, he did all three, I think.
Yeah, that comes in. It's just a small bit of piano music for a bit until the big Hans Zimmer boom.
Yeah,
it's just so. I think it sets the tone. Again, I love this tone setting stuff where up to this point, you were always pushing back against the Reapers, this incomprehensible threat. And then it's like, no, they've taken the fight to you.
Yeah, it's on your doorstep now.
Yeah, Shephard is, he's on the run nearly.
Yeah.
Or her, who you're playing as.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're flying off and this song is playing, this slow melodic piece of piano music with the odd bomb. As you're flying off and these other Reapers are slowly descending on the city. Yeah. Wreaking total havoc.
Isn't it bizarre though, like the juxtaposition of like a gentle piano piece and then you see these killing machines that are eons older than you just descending onto your doorstep, and as that comes through, that's actually a sound file. It's like the Reaper's siren, or I'm going to say it's like a bullhorn kind of sound.
It's almost like the sound they make before they fire a laser.
A laser, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And the thing as well is, as Shephard watches the city, he sees people trying to escape, including a little boy that he saw earlier. Now, the little boy has its problems in the narrative, but in this section of the game, it's quite strong because Shephard tried to help that child and they ran away, and now they're seen getting on this ship that almost immediately is blasted down by a Reaper.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, they straight up like killed a kid.
Yeah.
On screen. And I know it's not on screen in the traditional sense, but you see the kid get in the ship and that ship is blown to smithereens.
Yeah, it gets absolutely blasted.
Yeah, the implication is there. It's like, they're not taking prisoners now. They're here for revenge against Shephard. They're here to take the fight to you.
This is it.
It's personal, it's devastating, and that's as you said, the juxtaposition works really well.
Yeah,
because it is this slow tragedy fueled music playing.
Yes,
as you watch your home get demolished.
Yeah.
I adore that. I think it's a powerful moment that starts off a game that can get a bit rocky at times, but a game I still ultimately adore.
Yeah. I'm just going on the point that you made there. Like Shephard he's almost on trial for going against his superiors in the previous two games.
That was I think it's specifically to do with the Arrival DLC of Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, he blew up a relay.
Yeah, he blew up a relay which killed 300,000 Batarians.
Yeah, that's right. And he's then brought in front of like a panel almost, and they're getting these reports that the Reapers are in the Soul relay system, like they're really close, and they're saying to him, "Well, how do we fight against them?" And Shephard is like, "Fight against them. This isn't about fighting against them. This is about survival right now." And it's interesting because Shephard as a character in this moment is so different to who they were in the first game, or even towards the end of the first game, where he or she were. I hate using pronouns, but I'm going to use they, because you can be a man or a woman in this title. But the character of Shephard, they were always they're very much like Luke Skywalker in the sense of like there's always that blind optimism that everything is going to be okay once you look after the people around you. But in this opening scene, the intro particularly, they are saying, like, I warned you twice about this, and now you're coming to me for help. Like, we're done. Like, we need to get out of here. But it's as you said, that leaving Earth, I think, is the piece, or leaving home.
Leaving Earth.
Leaving Earth.
And it comes back again in an end once and for all at the end of the game.
Yeah. But I think it's that slow build up that it's only do. It's only a couple of notes on the piano, and then it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful piece of music. But like it's when you're seeing these creatures just obliterating buildings around you, like people's homes, completely just ripped to shreds with this beautiful piece of music. It's very sinister, and it really amplifies the tone of the game as well, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is as well that you as the player know that you fought Sovereign. I know you didn't directly fight Sovereign, but you were there. You saw the fight against Sovereign in the first game. You fought Saren while the entire Alliance armada fought Sovereign. It took an entire army to take down one Reaper. Yeah, just to dent the fucker. So seeing an army of Reapers show up on your doorstep hits home, because you're like, oh shit, they're here to kill me.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a great moment.
It's a great moment. That's such a good moment. That really is. That's a great moment, I must say.
Thanks, babes.
A really, really good choice there, I must say. Really, really good choice. But I was going to include this on my list, but the part in Mass Effect 3 that got me was More Than Sacrifice, but I won't get into that.
Fair.
But that was a point that I had, and I took it off. But the next point that I'm going to make that kind of stunned me into this kind of trance was going back onto another piece of music, as a matter of fact, and this is from The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. So it's a part in the game when you, as Geralt of Rivia, are kind of chasing down clues as to where Ciri might be. And this is a part of the game that I wish just didn't exist. Not particularly the part that I'm going to talk about. I'm more so talking about where it happens, and it's in the city of Novigrad. And I am not a fan of anything to do in Novigrad, and particularly because it felt like what they did in Dragon Age 2, where they just put everything in one city and just threw shit at you and hoped it stuck. Novigrad, for me, just felt like you spend at least 3 hours in that place just like chasing up on Dandelion's quest that he was doing. He was like a burglar for a while. Then you're chasing up on Zoltan's things, and it felt like that they were just putting in random quests just to level you up before you get to Skellige. That's my opinion. But there's a part in the game when you are on a clue that somebody might know where Ciri could be. They're also working with Dandelion, who is the bard of the story, who you get out of a lot of hot water, I must say. But you end up in this kind of tavern, and there's a performer there. I think her name is Priscilla. She's tuning up what looks to be like a lute or something like this. Yeah. And she plays the song The Wolf in Winter, I think it's called, where she's basically singing this. It's almost like a lament of Geralt's story. Like, it's the story of him and Yennefer. But it's how gently she's playing this piece of music, and how the lyrics are so encapsulating of the entire story. Like, one of the lines is, "You flee my dream come the morning, your lips berries tart, lilac sweet." Then she opens up the song with, "These scars have longed for your tender caress." And I don't know, I think it's because the key of the piece of music is in a D major chord, which is quite a warm chord. It's very inviting, but the composition kind of adds in these kind of little minor changes here and there to kind of give that ease of like you can't stop listening to it. And I think it's because Geralt has gone through such a journey in order to get to Novigrad. You know, the Bloody Barons questline, for example, is like the height. That's brilliance to me in that game. That was just
perfection.
They nailed that. So being in this tavern and hearing a wonderfully baroque kind of medieval piece of music with this wonderful falsetto gentleness in the performer's voice was just so relaxing to listen to. And again, it kind of put me in that trance of, what is this? I need to listen to this. And then the rest of the game, it continues on. You do find Ciri, I think a chapter or two later. That was going to be one that I did put down, where you do find Ciri and it turns out that she could be dead. But for this part, for me in particular, just that scene of when, in reference to like the Final Fantasy scene of Yuna and Tidus, this is kind of like a moment where the game is letting you just take everything in that you've done up to this point, reminding you about the quest that you're on, while having a wonderfully sculpted piece of music in the background. And it was one of those moments when I just put the controller down, folded my arms, and just said, okay, this is kind of like my moment now, where I can just like take everything in, really enjoy it. And you can see the patrons in the bar are like wiping their eyes because the piece of music is so beautiful, but like they don't know just how they don't know how deep it goes. Like Priscilla has sculpted this piece in particular for Geralt. So it was just one of those, again, a short point I wanted to make, but you and I are huge fans of The Witcher 3. We talked about it in depth in our private lives, but I think neither of us has mentioned this part before. But
it's quite a subdued part of the game, to be fair. It's not, it's kind of, it happens and then it's never spoken of again. Even largely among the fan community, to be honest, not just in the game itself. But it is, like, it's a great moment as well, just to kind of set the scene of what's kind of happening and how people view the world of The Witcher and stuff like that. I do agree, it's a great moment because it kind of just draws you in and lets you enjoy it. It's not bombastic, it's not over the top, it's just enjoy this moment of like serenity, I suppose. It's a lovely scene.
I think the setting as well was quite appropriate because they're in this kind of tavern, and this is like where friends kind of converge and kind of share stories and things. And now the singer on stage is sharing this story that we already know about. But it was just how beautifully written it was, the tender gentleness in the performer's voice. It was just like I had a nice sigh of relief afterwards. I was like, oh, that was really nice. So it was a short moment, but it really stuck out to me. So I just wanted to add that to my list.
Great moment. I love it.
Yeah.
Really I agree.
Really enjoyed it.
Wholeheartedly agree. Powerful moment.
Really, really enjoyed
it. So my next point, I'm going to pivot away from emotions and stuff like that. Maybe not pivot away from them, but explore a different direction. And I know you haven't really played this series much, but Devil May Cry.
Oh yeah, very good.
Yeah, so Devil May Cry 3 specifically, which is my personal favorite of the franchise.
That's the one I really haven't dived into, so I'm fully invested now.
It's chronologically the first. It's the one that explores Dante and Virgil's relationship, a young Dante discovering his powers. Like, he has his powers, but he discovers his devil powers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember level 8. There's 20 levels in the game.
Oh, wow.
And level 8. So the first half of the game is you're fighting your way to the top of the tower that Dante's brother Virgil has summoned, Temenugru. And you get to the boss fight with Virgil at the top of the tower, and it's a cool boss fight. But the moment, this moment lasts a couple of minutes, but I adore it, is after you finish the boss fight, you've whittled his health down, and the cutscene that plays after it is this raw, powerful, over-the-top, bombastic fight scene.
It's a cutscene, is it?
Yeah, it's a cutscene. So Dante and Virgil are trading blows. They're like tearing lumps out of each other, knocking each other across the top of the tower. You know, like Dante fires off a few rounds. Virgil twists his blade and catches all of the bullets, lays them on the ground, and then flicks them back at Dante. Dante splits the bullets in half. It's camp as fuck, and I love it. And then eventually they get up close and they're hacking away. You know, the rain is being repelled by the force of their swings. It's amazing. And Virgil just like straight up impales Dante.
Right.
Now, Dante's no stranger to getting impaled. That's kind of his whole bit.
Yeah, like the first game when like he gets impaled by the electricity sword and kind of
exactly.
Like, walks through
pulls himself. Yeah, he's like, oh man, that sucks.
Fucking badass.
Yeah, I know, I love him. But this is like, you know, this is kind of a personal impalement. So Virgil impales him, and that's when the voice acting I just find really good as well. Dan Southworth voices Virgil.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know the name Dan Southworth, but you may remember him from your childhood.
Oh.
As the Quantum Ranger in Power Rangers Time Force.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
There's a familial thing where people in that family are former Power Rangers. Because Nero is also Johnny Young Bosch.
Yeah, that's right.
The second Black Ranger in Mighty Morphin.
That's crazy.
But yeah, Dan Southworth voices Virgil perfectly. I think he's spot on casting. And he's so... He has this great balance between like cheese and camp, but also genuine emotion and stuff. Like, Virgil is obsessed with becoming more powerful. So he'll do anything to achieve that power. But he also does love Dante. So he's kind of... There's an element of like, he's the villain, but he's not a villain. He's the antagonist. Arkham is the real villain, but that's not what I'm here for.
Oh, the bald guy, yeah.
Yeah. So Virgil impales Dante, like pulls in the blade. He's like, foolishness, Dante, foolishness. Like, twist the blade and like, whatever. We're like, oh fuck, Dante's coughing up blood. He takes his amulet that their mother gave each of them a half of an amulet.
Oh yeah,
which is also in the first game.
That's right.
You find out that Nilo Angelo is
Virgil's.
Spoilers the whole fucking franchise. So I love it because it is just really like it's a fucking cool cutscene.
Yeah,
but one that ends with, you know, Virgil thinking he's killed his own brother. Like, he stabs him with his own sword, the Yamato, and then takes the bracelet and cuts Dante's hand. Then Dante goes to get up, and Virgil takes Dante's sword, the Rebellion, and impales him to the ground with Dante's own sword.
Stop.
Then Dante's devil powers wake up, and he's all super powerful. He jumps at Virgil and goes to punch him, and Virgil blocks the punch with the Yamato sword. Yeah. So like, it goes kind of through Dante's hand.
Oh man.
And like, you know, just kind of it's so fucking it's grim and gruesome, and I love it.
Yeah.
And then the moment following this is also just really fucking cool, where Dante runs down the side of this 150-story tower. Like, runs down the wall on the outside and runs so fast. He reaches terminal velocity. You know,
okay.
He's running so fast he catches fire.
What?
It's fucking bonkers, and it's that whole cutscene. And now technically it's two cutscenes, but it's the moment of Dante and Virgil going at it. Virgil like really just hurting his brother, and the two of them just I can't describe it. It's a series of moments, but all together it's just a beautiful package. I'd considered another moment from the same game, which is at the end when Dante and Virgil are on the cusp of hell.
Okay.
And they're fighting, and they're tearing lumps out of each other. And Virgil kind of not sacrifices himself, but accepts the fact that he's like, look, I'm always going to be wanting power. You're better off leaving me here.
Oh.
I considered that because it's a more emotionally resonant moment, but I was also just like, you know what? I'm going to go for the badass moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the moment where I was just glued to my screen, watching these two tear lumps out of each other, and just wowed by it. It's
so
just
much
gorgeous.
going on.
And the great thing about that game is, when you complete certain like difficulties and stuff like that, you unlock extras. I missed that as well in games, but it showed how they did the mocap for that scene.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And it's so fucking cool. Like, they show mocap for other parts of the game as well, but that scene, just watching the mocap happen, I was like, this is the craziest thing ever.
Yeah,
I love it.
It wasn't all digital. It was actually two stuntmen doing this as well.
Exactly. I think it was brilliant. The two actors, the voice actors, the VAs, because it was Ruben Langdon did the motion capture and voice acting for Dante.
No way.
And Ruben Langdon did the motion capture for Chris Redfield in Resident Evil 5, I think, but he didn't do the voice. Roger Craig Smith did the voice. Roger Craig Smith is also Sonic the Hedgehog, so that's weird. Yeah, Chris Redfield, the boulder punching man, is also Sonic the Hedgehog.
Go figure. Go figure.
Voice acting trivia. That's what
one every video.
Is about. Yeah. I have one every video.
Yeah.
One every podcast. And yeah, that's kind of my point. It's just this gorgeously well animated beatdown between the two brothers. It's fucking amazing. I love it. I'm gonna play that after this.
Yeah, rightly so. I mean, just the two brothers going at it, and you know, it's just, it sounds like the scene that you've painted. It's just like I can visualize what you're doing, and like just the emotion behind it just sounds amazing. Very, very good. Good addition to that list there. Yeah, I can totally understand why you'd include something like that. And Devil May Cry is, as a franchise, is not short from those bombastic kind of cutscenes and things like this. But it's
what they do, and they do it well.
Yeah, it's watching them do it is fantastic. So this next one for me is my third point. I think. Yeah, fourth point. Beg your pardon. So my fourth point is, again, it's kind of short and sweet, but it comes from Dark Souls, and the point that kind of made me just like take everything in. Now, Dark Souls of itself is like one of those bizarre games where like not everything is given to the player straight away. You kind of have to piece information together and things like this. But my point that I was going to make was from the first Dark Souls game, and it was the reveal of Anor Londo. Yeah,
excellent choice.
The reveal of Anor Londo to me, because you start the game off like your main kind of hub area is the Firelink Shrine, but it's at the base of what looks like to be a gigantic wall of like a circular kind of wall. And I was always kind of like, what the fuck is up there? Like, but like you start the game off where you have to bring the two bells of awakening. One is in Blighttown, and the other one is in at the top of a tower. After the undead burg. But even when you're in Blighttown, it's like, oh god, like I know for a fact a lot of people quit the game there, and I was one of them for a long time. Blighttown broke me. I have seen videos on YouTube as to why Blighttown was necessary, and I agree with it in some stage. But I think it's that moment, like even after you get through Sen's Fortress, which in of itself is a ball ache. Like I don't understand why Dark Souls went platformer there, but like more power to them for doing that. But I think it's when the bat gargoyles kind of lift you up after you've defeated he's almost like a guardian of some sort.
Golem. Yeah.
That's it. Excuse me. That's it. Like he's like the last test that you have to do, and I think it's just that grandiose reveal of like there was an entire civilization right above you, and you were completely unaware of it. But it's when the gargoyles, the bat gargoyle thing is, as they're flying you up there, and you see the sunlight coming through the clouds, and this huge sprawling city, this metropolis, and you have the main cathedral just a stone's throw away from you. Because like everything in that game had been really grimy and dark, and Dark Souls, it was really kind of like greys and really kind of dark earthy colors.
It was dirty, like it was like you were in the peasants' quarters.
Exactly,
and I think that was the point of Anor Londo. It was to showcase that this is the home of the gods. They look. It's kind of like the whole Olympus thing. They're looking down on their subjects from above.
We're ants to them. Yeah,
and it's funny because like Gwyn is obviously obsessed with power, and his whole thing is like, I want to preserve my generation as long as possible. My
bloodline, yeah.
Yeah, he refuses to link the flame as a result.
Yeah,
and that's it. It's like Anor Londo was built to cater to his ego.
Yeah.
And the ego of the other gods and his family and all that kind of stuff. And it's almost like a classism thing because it's the elite above looking on the poor below.
Yeah.
It's not subtle, but it's clever, and I think it's really good. And it's, as you said as well, even just the moment of when you ascend that wall, you're like, oh my god, like the game just opened
Yeah.
And like Anor Londo itself isn't a long part of the game. It's actually quite brief compared to some regions and stuff. Like Blighttown goes on forever.
Yeah. It went on for far too long, Blighttown.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that moment, like even when you go into like the actual, I'm gonna say like the church, where Guinevere is, like even when going in through some of the rooms, the bedrooms where the servants' quarters were in this place, everything is so regal. There's golden wallpaper, there's red, there's purples, there's marble walls, and the spiraling staircases that will you could actually see them shift and move into different directions. So like the game is kind of like putting so much on the plate at the moment, like kind of making this seem like like somebody is like put a lot of time into building their home here, and it's the home of the gods basically.
Yeah.
I just think it was like the amount of shit that you had to go through just to get here by linking the two bells, the amount of times you died, like just even like the bosses that you fought just to get there, like the Capra Demon, for example, or the Bell Gargoyles.
Getting through Sen's Fortress, which is the last region before it.
Just everything. It really gave me a moment of like proper accomplishment, and it's like,
yeah, it's like there's more to what's going on in this world than I'm led to believe, kind of thing.
I think
it's funny.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually had a Dark Souls point.
Oh, cool.
Which I've since deleted. And it's very different to your one.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I was going to
say, the moment the Asylum Demon shows up and boots your ass out the door.
Oh, yeah. That's how you do a tutorial.
Yeah, it's kind of like, nah, fuck you and your broken sword.
Yeah, absolutely. Mops the floor with you.
Very different. But
very different.
That's kind of a testament to Dark Souls as a whole. It is a game where every even the worst parts of the game still kind of have something to say or some kind of impact on you as a player. Mm-hmm. I love that. You know,
they were there for a reason.
Exactly. Like, while we don't necessarily agree with all the decisions made, like I find Blighttown more manageable in the remaster. In the
100%,
because the frame rate on the original release was exactly, the frame rate in the original version of the game was like it was like a book.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, you're reading page by page how to get through fucking Blighttown.
And even then, like if you didn't go back to the Undead Asylum to get the ring to make it easier to travel through the swamp area without getting poisoned as much, that would just become like next to impossible for first time gamers. You know?
Even. Yeah, and the thing as well is I think that the DLC, the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, the way they integrated it into the main game's narrative was brilliant. Because like you fight Sif and in the main game, and you're like, oh cool, dog with a sword. But if you do the DLC first, it's like Sif recognizes you. Oh no, I don't. Like, it's bad enough I had to kill the doggo in the main game. Now I have to kill the doggo that I got to know.
Yeah. Yeah,
and he remembers me, and he's like, "Look, I don't want to do this, but I got to protect my master's grave." And you're like, "Damn it, I love you."
I know. And even like when you find out that Ulasil is actually Farron Keep, I think it is, or the Darkroot Gardens. I beg your pardon. Yeah, that's Ulasil became this. So it's all. I love little details like that. I love it. But
it's time travel as well because it's not explicit. It's quite subtle, and like time travel. When you introduce time travel into anything, it can be quite messy. So having it as, you know, you go back and you're just kind of experiencing what happened back then. You're not necessarily influencing it. And
yeah,
it's the right call.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're a spectator, I think is the word. You're a spectator into the past, and I think the only time that you actually do influence things timeline wise is when you fight Manus. But you know, I think just the reveal of Anor Londo was just. Perfect. It was just, it was perfect. And that's what it stunned me because I just put my controller down and I was like, it was worth it. It was worth it. It was worth it. It was worth it.
It's funny as well because generally speaking, among the Dark Souls community, it's also where the game drops off in quality. You know, because there's the hunt for the Four Lord Souls. You know, you go to see the Scaleless and the rest.
Yeah, I think you can really see that they were running out of time when you get to the likes of Lost Izalith, and even the bed of chaos was just, that was abysmal. That really was. That really was.
To be fair, they clearly understood that themselves because they save your progress during the fight. If you destroy one of the runes on one side, and then die and come back, that rune is still destroyed. So they got it. At least they got it, and that's fine.
Yeah. But thank you for getting me into Dark Souls. By the way, you were the catalyst behind that. So what have you got for me?
Oh, I think I'm going to go back to emotions and hating myself. This one is a bit interesting. Okay, so, and I've talked about this game quite a lot on our podcast and our YouTube, and it's Telltale's The Walking Dead.
I had one of those points as well.
Again, it's not quite what you're expecting.
It's not the first season, is it?
It's season 1, but it's a moment that kind of made me question myself.
Okay.
So, after you meet a certain character in episode 2, I won't say who it is yet. This character is with your team up until episode 4.
Is it Ben?
Or Ben. It's
Ben. Oh, I know what you're going to talk about.
It's so Ben's a piece of shit. I hated Ben for so long. I hated him. So my issue with Ben was he always made the wrong choices. You know, he was trying to make a deal with raiders in the 3rd episode of the game because he thought he was protecting you, but because he didn't communicate with you, you got fucked over. So you know he was essentially stealing from the group. He was selling them medicine and things, wasn't he? Yeah, he regularly abandons Clementine when he's supposed to be looking after her, including at the beginning of episode 4 when you arrive in the city.
Yes,
at the kind of tail end of the story.
Yeah,
and he keeps it messing up. And then I was like, "Fucking Ben, you know what? If the opportunity comes up, I'm gonna let you die. I don't care."
Really?
And then I was just so done with his bullshit. And they knew. Telltale knew what they were doing. They went out of their way to make me hate Ben. So that when I'm climbing that clock tower and Ben falls, I grabbed his arm and I was like, this is it. I'm letting this fucker go.
What did you do?
And he says, let me go. I was like, what? He's like, look, all I do is screw up. I'm a danger to you and the group. You have to let me go. And I was like, you bastard, Ben. You absolute bastard. I pulled him up. I had to. But I nearly dropped him because the moment stopped me dead in my tracks. I wasn't expecting him to turn around and say that. I thought he was going to say, pull me up. And I was like, oh no, my hand slipped. No, he got it. And I think that was great
That's
writing.
So clever.
Isn't it? It's not the biggest moment in that game, but it was a moment that kind of just resonated with me a lot because I went to other people and I asked them, what did you do? And then I dropped Ben. I dropped that fucker like a rock. And the thing as well is that it doesn't matter much because ultimately his death comes only an hour later anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's at the beginning of the next episode when Kenny and him are trapped in the alleyway.
There's actually there's a scene before that. Sorry to cut across you. When I'm almost certain it's in episode 3 when Katya and Duck die. Duck gets bitten, and Kenny is kind of goes into plausible deniability. I suppose he does not want to accept the fact.
Yep.
And there's actually a moment. I think it's in the 5th episode that Kenny kind of uses Ben as an emotional punching bag.
Yeah, he lashes out a lot at Ben.
Yeah,
basically from Duck and Catch's death onwards.
Yeah. He uses Ben as a dartboard just to kind of just pin so much of his trauma on. And Ben says, "I'm sorry that you're what happened to Duck and Katya. I'm sorry. I never got a chance to see my family. I was away on a band retreat. I don't even know if they're alive right now. So I'm sorry that they died, but at least you got to say goodbye to them. I don't even know if my mom and dad are alive."
And Kenny kind of
he gets it.
Yeah, I like that they don't just have him lash out. He has that moment of oh, okay, shit, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
And I think as well, that's why rescuing Ben in the clock tower hurts that much more because it feels like ultimately Kenny comes back. But if you only play season 1, Kenny's gone. You know, Kenny dies protecting Ben in your own head.
Yeah, that's right.
And in that moment, because it was ages between seasons 1 and 2 as well, so like rescuing Ben, I was like, oh, I hate you so much for making me want to rescue you.
Yeah.
That's not something many games have made me feel before.
Mm.
And then only an episode later, or an episode and a bit later, whatever it winds up being, he falls and gets impaled and dies anyway. But Kenny's arc comes to a head because he does.
He puts him out of his misery.
Yeah, and I'm like,
you know what I know. What I really love about that scene in the alleyway is when Kenny kind of pushes Lee back into like a building and locks the gate behind him and says, "This is something I know I have to do." And you can hear Ben saying, like, because there's walkers coming from both sides of this alley, and you can hear Ben like I think the voice acting was done so great at that, because you can hear genuine. It's not even fear; it's petrification. Yeah. You know, and I think Kenny's arc really comes ahead when he makes the decision with one bullet left. I'm not going to let this kid die afraid.
Doesn't Ben say something like, "Don't let them take me" or something like that?
Yeah, it says, Kenny, don't let them get any closer. Don't let them get, and bang. Like he shoots him halfway through when he's speaking. But what a great moment you've included there. That is brilliant.
Because it wasn't something I expected to feel.
Yeah.
You know, I expected to have hard decisions in the game, but I didn't expect the game to build me towards one decision, to deliberately put me in a situation where I would feel bad for making it.
Mm. Yeah.
That's clever.
It's so clever.
And it couldn't have been accidental. It was too clever. And I just love that.
It's amazing though how they almost they wrote Ben's character in a way that, like, yeah, he's aloof and he's an idiot and he's just trying to he's trying to fit in, but he's doing it the wrong way. And yet in one moment they made you actually really pity the guy. Yeah. And it's like, I can't fucking let you drop now, can I? You know, you shouldn't have said anything. I would have dropped you like a bad habit, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
But look, yeah, good point.
Split number 5.
Good point.
Rambo number 5. Hit me with your one.
So there's a few different ones here that I do have. I just would like to interject really, really quickly, but I did have the Last of Us season 1, but my one was when you're in that house in the city and you go up to the attic and you see the starved child there who turned into a walker.
What you meant Walking Dead? Sorry, not The Last of Us.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, the Walking Dead.
Yeah. I know the scene. Oh my god.
Yeah, when you have to bury the kid out the back, that for me just put me in this trance. But I kind of gave it away there. The Last of Us was a part for me that kind of stunned me into this moment, and it's the giraffe scene.
Oh,
yeah,
good choice.
Yeah, the giraffe scene where you and Ellie are traversing across the wider plains of this post-apocalypse America, and Ellie gets distracted when she sees a shadow walking past this kind of structure that they're in, and because she would usually boost her up to like a higher plateau and she would like drop stuff down to like a ladder or whatever it might be, and this time she doesn't. But it's that scene when Joel and Ellie, they have their hands kind of leaning on these railings and they're just looking out of this kind of, it's a wide open green area, and you can see like a family of giraffes walking by, and overhead birds are flying in the shape of like an arrowhead, and it was just like such a peaceful kind of moment that, like, in the background Gustavo Santaella's piece of music is playing. It's only on like a dainty little electric keyboard, but it's so soothing and gentle in comparison to like what's been going on with the game, like those hard moments that you have to face, like with Henry and Sam, for example, with Tess dying, with so many different things have kind of like some dark shit has already happened. But here it was like just that moment when I was stunned in what I was watching, and it was just so serene, so beautiful, and like the game will just stop. You'll stop moving until you decide to move. That's when you continue on your story. But I left the controller aside for about 5-6 minutes and just kind of looked at what was around me, this wide open space where you could see natural livestock animals just waltzing about. And it was just something so peaceful in a post-apocalyptic world that has been ravaged by a cordyceps fungus.
I do like that they give you that choice to take it in for as long as you want. If you want to just keep playing the game, you can. But no, it's just that nice serene moment. And actually, I've commended 2018 God of War for something similar, where they actually make it work with the gameplay as well. Ellie is kind of she's not invested in what's going on, I think, because she knows that her time with Joel is coming to an end, because he's about to pass her off to the Fireflies.
Yeah.
But so she's not quite listening to what you're saying and stuff. Like, for example, you go to boost her up to grab a lift, a ladder, even not a lift.
To
grab a ladder. And up to this point in the game, you would do it. You would throw her up, and she would get it.
She drops something down. Yeah.
Yeah.
This time she runs off. Yeah.
Yeah. So she does knock the ladder down, but she's distracted by something else. And you have to call her more than once to do it, because you go into position, and it's like, all right, ready, and then you turn. The camera turns, and she's kind of just sitting there, like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's something that so it makes it work in the gameplay. You see Ellie is distracted just before this happens, and then of course you're actually chasing Ellie through the building as you try to find what is she looking at. And you don't know
when you do find that elephant, and Joel kind of has this moment where he says, "It's okay, just reach your hand out." Yeah,
giraffe is leaning through the wall, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
I completely agree. And that's a fan favorite as well.
I love that moment. I love that moment. I really do. So it's a short and sweet moment, but it was like like what I mentioned with the Priscilla scene in Final Fantasy X. It's a moment of just like, and I love those moments. Just that's what affects me in games, when I can just I allow myself to be stunned by something like that. Absolutely. So a short and sweet point, but I'm glad you know what I was talking about there.
It's beautiful.
Add that to my list. What have you got?
So my number 5. This is, I was actually torn, because I have 2 moments here from the same series but in different games, and I was torn which one I was going to do. Now I'm going to say the franchise first. Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
I'm interested to know if you can guess before I continue.
Okay, so it's from Metal Gear Solid.
The series, not necessarily the first game.
I'm going to say... Do I get 2 guesses?
Give me 1 guess.
Okay, 1 guess. Oh, dirty boy. You're doing me dirty here. I'm going to say... Because I think I have the same point on my list here.
Oh, maybe you do.
Is it from the 4th one?
Yes.
Okay. Go on.
The microwave scene.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I had been flip flopping between that and the scene from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
The latter.
Yeah. So sorry. So the one I'm gonna go with is Metal Gear Solid 4, but I was torn between 4 and 3.
What was the part in 3? What was the part?
Killing the boss, making you kill the boss.
Oh, at the end of the game, you have to pull the trigger.
Yeah, where the cutscene stops and you're like, you're not going anywhere until you press square.
Oh, fuck that game.
Yeah,
and Life's End playing in the back.
Yeah, gorgeous piece of music. But no, I'm going with the microwave tunnel.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I feel like that, as kind of gimmicky as it is to just mash triangle to crawl through a tunnel for 4 minutes is.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck, my thumbs were destroyed by the end of it.
Yeah, they got to work out all right.
I love that it splices in the footage of what all of the other characters are doing while Snake is at his last moment of kind of like, he's so drained. He's been doing this for so long, and he's so tired. Often, and you feel it there, and they're with him as he's crawling and struggling. You see bits of his like armor pop off. Yeah. It's gorgeous, and watching like Raiden's fighting off those soldiers, and this is just after Snake had said to him, was like, "You were the lightning in that storm," or whatever he says.
When you were born,
gorgeous. Like it's a great payoff for so many character moments. Like watching Meryl and Akiba fight off all those soldiers as well in the control room,
running out of ammo while they're doing it.
Yeah, it's.
There's a moment, isn't there, when you're crawling through, and Snake is being boiled alive here. Yeah. There's moments like when like there's spikes coming out of the side of the walls, and when you touch off one of them, the game did it on purpose that you have to touch off one of them, but you would see then like your comrades starting to lose their own battle that they're in at the moment whenever Snake gets hit by these spikes. And it kind of gives you more incentive to just bash the shit out of that button and just keep going. Like, you really felt that you were you were struggling as well to keep Snake going, because that's what the characters are doing. They're struggling to keep him going and get him to achieve his goal.
Yeah,
that's a great moment. That really is a great moment.
It just hurt to watch and to play through, and I loved it.
Yeah, and even when you land on Outer Haven, the warship, like when you get onto Otacon on your codec to kind of relay the point to him, Snake sounds so tired when he's like, Otacon, I landed. You know, it's just
David Hayter nailed it. He really did.
What a great performance to go out on a Solid Snake. Yeah. What a great performance. And this actually feeds into my last point.
Yeah.
My last point is also from a Metal Gear game, and it comes from the same game that you're talking about, but mine was actually the ending of Metal Gear Solid 4, when at the graveyard, when Snake is about to off himself, and he's about to, because he knows, like, if the virus that he has will die with him, because he only has like a timeline of like 2 months or so before he becomes like a walking nuclear weapon. And it's that moment when he has the gun in his mouth and you hear a gunshot going off and the credits start rolling, and the last thing you see is Big Boss and the voice actor that played him. Robert Doyle, I think his name was, or something like that. I can't remember his name. But you see that Snake didn't shoot himself, and he's profusely sweating. Yeah. And behind him there is Big Boss with Zero in his wheelchair in this kind of vegetable kind of state.
Yeah.
And the cutscene itself lasts for a good 20 or 30 minutes, but I was frozen. I just couldn't take my eyes off what was happening, because the conversation that they have really kind of wraps everything up over the space of 4 long games. But it starts off with what happened after the Philosopher's Legacy and the birth of what would be the Patriots, with Paramedic, Sigint, Zero, Eva, Ocelot, and Solids, and Big Boss.
It's impressive as well because, and sorry to cut across you.
No, of course not.
What I love about it as well is that up to this point, okay, in the Solid series, obviously there are games that predate Metal Gear Solid in the timeline. Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2.
Mm.
And those games focus on Snake versus Big Boss. Solid Snake and Big Boss never encounter each other before this cutscene.
That's right.
In the Solid series.
Yeah.
And most players have only played the Solid games.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, that moment is still succinct and powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because obviously you play as Big Boss in Snake Eater.
Uh-huh.
Before this, you know of Snake's relationship to Big Boss because of the Les Enfants Terribles, the Twin Snakes.
Yeah.
Like Liquid Snake, all of it. It all comes to a head in that scene.
Yeah. And it's all dialogue. Like for something that isn't going on, there's a lot going on. And I was stunned. Like, it just impacted me so much. I was frozen. I was like, oh my God, I wanted more. But I think it was like right at the end when Big Boss is the fox die is starting to get to him. When he sits down, he doesn't sit down. He says to Snake, he says, please take me to her. And he stands in front of the boss's grave and gives one final salute. And he says, my life ended the day I killed the boss.
Yeah.
And he sits in front of her grave and he tries to light his cigar, but he can't. He's degrading so quickly.
Yeah. And Snake does it.
Snake does it, yeah. And as he's puffing away on his cigar, the last thing he says to his son is, "This is good, isn't it?"
Mm.
And he just dies.
He keeps saying as well to go back to zero, isn't it?
Yeah, so he says everything must return to zero in order for the world to be born new. And
he's basically saying we need to wipe the slate clean.
Yeah, he looks to his son and he says, it's time for you to live as a man and not as a snake. The world needs no more snakes, or something like this.
Yeah, because the whole thing is like
hell.
basically from the early Metal Gear games onwards, it's always been about creating a world for soldiers.
Yeah.
That's what Big Boss wanted to do, or that's what Big Boss interpreted the boss's will as.
And Zero completely misinterpreted the other way. The
two of them just misinterpreted. It's funny when you actually reduce the core themes and story plots of all the games, down to these two lads misinterpreted their besties dying with.
Yeah,
that's what starts all of this.
And it doesn't Big Boss even he says actually as he's standing beside Zero, and Zero doesn't even know where he is right now. He's completely just gone, like he's gone. And and Big Boss looks down and says, "This man right here doesn't even know what he's caused."
Yeah.
And he literally just turns his oxygen tank off. But it was so clever how Kojima kind of spliced in images of Zero as a younger man in Metal Gear Solid 3. It's such a good scene, but that was I knew I was going to add a Metal Gear moment in there, and it had to be that one. It really did. It's an amazing moment, I must say. But listen, I really enjoyed having this chat with you. I think that you do have one more though, right?
Yeah, I do. One last one to tie.
One last one,
and I'll be quick.
No, of course not.
Most people probably already know this one. So first of all, I'd like to start with, we haven't had many kind of plot twisty elements in our list of stunning moments.
Oh,
which is interesting.
Okay,
so this is the only one I can think of that was a true twist. In both of our lists. So, Knights of the Old Republic, the Star Wars game.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Now, again, most people who've played KOTOR, as it's known, or know of KOTOR, probably already know the twist. And this is the big spoiler warning. This is a huge plot point. Throughout the game, you're playing as your Jedi character of choice. Canonically a woman, but you can customize them how you like.
I've never played the game before.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I played it for the first time on an iPad.
Oh,
I didn't own an original Xbox, or I didn't have a PC that could run it. I got it years later when it was released on iPad. I have it on my phone as well.
Oh, I must check that out then.
Oh, well worth it. Would highly recommend.
Controls work okay for the iPad?
Yeah, the touch controls work quite well, I have to say. Not amazing, but a good way to experience a classic game.
And who did that? It was BioWare, wasn't it?
BioWare, yeah, they're back in my list. This was peak BioWare. So it's also peak Star Wars. It's one of the best Star Wars experiences I've ever had. Oh, cool. So throughout the game, you're playing as your customized Jedi character. You're learning a lot more about kind of the ins and outs of the Force than you have in other Star Warsy things.
Cool. Okay.
You're getting just a really good kind of vibe for the
not this Metachlorian shit that they brought in.
No, exactly. No. And that's something that the game does very well. Is it goes into more about how people deal with the Force and how the Jedi aren't necessarily infallible. Which I love. I think that's a great element of the story. And you're fighting your way through the game, and the main antagonist, Darth Malak.
Oh yeah, I know.
He's the apprentice
dude, isn't he?
Yeah, with a kind of a
metal
grill
metallic
face.
plate there. Yeah,
and he's front and center on the box art. He's front and center in the title screen. All that. So you're like, this is the guy I'm going after, Darth Malak. But there's all these references to Darth Revan, who you're told is Malak's boss.
Mm-hmm.
But you haven't seen Revan yet. Where the fuck is Revan? And you go to fight Darth Malak about the midway point of the game. And he's pretty tough. But he reveals to you as you're fighting him. He's like, yo, you ain't figured that out yet, have you? He's like, well, what you talking about, Willis? Yeah, you're Darth Revan. It's like, what? No, you, the player character, you are Darth Revan. And your companion, Bastila, she's a Jedi. She wiped your memory. And the Jedi Order have been using you as a tool to fight the dark side.
What?
So, yeah. So, a lot of people say they saw the twist coming because it kind of hints throughout the game. Like, your character has no memory of the events before the game. They're surprisingly strong in the Force. All those. It's like, okay, you can kind of see it coming.
Yeah,
but it's more. It's less about the twist itself being you're actually the villain, because the game allows you to be good or light Jedi or dark Sith. That's fine. It's also about how the characters of the game either react to that news, or how the characters of the game were privy to that knowledge before you and what they did with that knowledge. Your teammate Bastila, voiced by Jennifer Hale, who is FemShep.
And Naomi Hunter.
Yeah. It's all connected. So she's like, oh yeah, so the Jedi Order kind of wiped your memory, and we're like, you're really strong in the Force. We're going to use you to fight the dark side, and it's now part of Bastila's arc is growing from fuddy-duddy Jedi to, okay, you know what? Maybe we were wrong.
Yeah.
And then actually she winds up joining Darth Malak for a time. So you have to fight her.
Right.
So it would be, I suppose the equivalent would be in another BioWare game. Would be, say, like if Liara decided to decide with her mother in Mass Effect 1.
Matriarch Benezia, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to, like, you know, so when you get there and she's like, actually, no, lol, fuck you.
Fuck you.
Same kind of energy.
Doesn't that paint the Jedi in such a dodgy light, though?
Well, that's a huge part of that game. There's another companion character you can get called Jahani.
Okay.
She's a member of the Jedi Order, but she's been excommunicated.
Right.
Because she attempted to attack her own master.
Okay.
So you're told, oh, hey, look, we when you go to the Jedi Council, they're like, oh, look, on Dantooine, this is the home planet of the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, look, there's like a collection of like dark force energy in this area. Would you go purge it? And you get there, and it's this Jedi Jahani, or Dark Jedi, not a Sith, Dark Jedi.
Yeah.
And she's like, lol, you're just gonna have to kill me. And you're like, but I don't want to kill you. You're a Jedi. And then you bring her back, and her master, like, so Jahani will apologize if you can convince her to do so.
Okay.
And her master, I'm sorry, I know my point's getting a bit long in the tooth.
No.
Her master will say to her, it's like, oh no, this was part of your test.
What?
I made you attack me. I pushed you into attacking me to see if you would fall to the dark side. You failed.
I'll forget about it.
Yeah, like you failed because you fucked off and you didn't learn your lesson.
That's so dodgy.
That's a huge part of why this game, I think, is so good. Now, the sequel, I believe, goes. I'm playing it at the moment. On the Switch.
What's it like?
It's good, but I have problems with the developer. We'll get to that another time.
Okay.
Basically, the short version is that the guys who developed the remaster promised certain content.
And nothing.
They've actually not said anything about it. They were like, oh, it'll be there. You'll have it for free by the end of Q3 2022.
Yeah.
Now, February 2023, and they have not replied to any inquiries. But that's not why we're here.
No, this you're after. You have me captivated now. So
it's honestly, even.
And is that particularly the moment that, like, when you with the reveal is that you're the big bad?
You're Revan. You're the most powerful.
Fucking hell.
And that's a huge moment as well, because it's not just, you know, up to this point you're playing as a hero or a villain, as it's an RPG or whatever. If you've been playing as a Jedi and like you're following the ways of the light, that brings your own kind of playthrough into question of, well, how can I trust these fuckers? Because these are supposed to be the good guys, and they're manipulating me. I'm just a tool to them.
Oh my god, that is brilliant.
That's a clever way to do it. It's if it was just the case that, oh, you were just the villain all along, I don't think the twist would have hit as hard.
No.
I think this idea that you're following the guidings of the light side of the Jedi.
And they've been lying to your face the whole time.
They're like...
they've been using you as a tool.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. Now, the thing as well is if you're playing on the dark side of things, you like, Malak has already tried to kill you before the events of the game. Because that's what the Sith do. They betray each other.
Yeah.
So you're still kind of like, oh, fuck Darth Malak, I'm going to kill him anyway.
Yeah.
So you still have your motivation for killing the antagonist, the villain.
But now you're questioning your motives, though.
It's
that's so good.
The twist works better on a light side playthrough, to be fair. But most players, as far as I'm aware, would do light side first time anyway. Yeah. So the twist works. Now the thing as well, there's other characters on your squad. There's an old man. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he used to be a Jedi, but left because he wanted to marry this woman, and
okay,
the Jedi forbid them to be together.
Yeah.
So she was like, "But I want to be with you," and he's like, "But we can't because we're Jedi." So she's like, "Well, fuck that! I'm going to be a Sith." So then, when the Jedi Sith War happened, he had to kill his own wife. Yeah.
Jesus.
And that's why he leaves the Jedi Order. They actually were like, "We want to promote you to the rank of like master or something." He's like,
"Yeah, but
no. You made me kill my woman.
Yeah. Oh my god, that is...
It's such a good game for how it examines the Force, how people interact with the Force.
I love that.
And the light and dark side. It's not all light and dark. There is a substantial amount of grey in between.
Yeah, and there are the grey Jedi as well in the wider universe.
They're not in this game. I think they might be in KOTOR 2. I might be wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, the main one, the twist. That's my point.
Brilliant.
So download KOTOR on your phone. Man, I know you know the twist now, but it's
no. Even then, though, if I think having the knowledge of it now, it's kind of like I'm going to pay a little bit more closer attention as to what is really going on. But I suppose that's the replayability of the game as well.
Exactly.
You know, that's absolutely fantastic. Oh man, I have to check that out. Yeah, Jesus, great point, man. Well, there are such great moments that have kind of like stunned us when we're playing games, be it from Dark Souls to this, or from The Last of Us to The Walking Dead, or from Zelda to Metal Gear. I think we nailed some good points there, and we actually just we're going to wrap it up pretty quickly now. But on behalf of the Save Point, I would actually like to thank the returning listeners listening to this on Spotify, or if you watch it or listen to it rather on YouTube. You consume your content how you like. But Shephard, thank you so much for joining me. I know you're quite a busy man these days, and I really do appreciate the hour or so of your time. So guys, we're going to be signing off now, the Save Point, and thank you so much for coming out and listening. So signing off on the Save Point once again, and please do not forget to save your progress. I have been your host, Joker.
I've been your co-host, Shephard. Thank you so much for listening.